It's still just showing the splash page. Two watching. There we go.
There we go. We're live now. We're now live. Hey, Mark, thanks so much for making it this morning. And we are now live from India. So, hi, everyone. My name is Samrat, and we're now live with the Baseline Show in India. And I'm part of the technical steering committee of Baseline Protocol and also the head for India community. With myself, I have Mark. Mark, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
I basically am on the go-to-market and enablement committee meeting for Baseline Protocol, and I've been an enthusiast of Baseline for I'd say a year and a half now. So it's actually really interesting watching. I mean, how the whole thing. I stumbled across it really just because I had been reading some of the just some of the communications that were going on around the community as it was forming and stuff, and I just kind of said, I want to start paying attention to this, and so I started going to the first couple of meetings, and I just kept going, and now all of a sudden here we are a year and a half later, and very exciting time for Baseline.
Absolutely. I had promised the viewers that we'll be playing a new theme song this week, so I have something, and I wanted people's opinion on it, so I'm just going to play it. And I want your opinion as well, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Not playing. Can't hear it.
So that's the intro.
Okay. We couldn't hear it.
Zero? Oh.
I could tell that there was something playing, maybe in the other room, but
okay. Let me try another source, which is a very reliable source. But this time I can't mess it up because it got messed up last time. When I had requested John to play the baseline song that he plays.
How many people do it? Oh, we've got four watching.
Yeah, we owe it to the 4 people that last time we committed. So last time was a superb episode, and we had Jack Leahy, and we had John, and we were talking about John Walbert, and we were talking about everything. So
we got to reiterate.
Oh yeah, got it. Let's see.
No, nothing.
Nothing. So that's the intro.
Okay. Yeah. No.
So yeah, for people watching us on YouTube, if you have any comments about it, just let us know on the comments. So yeah, that's the new song. We also have an outro from the same theme. This is very interesting. I enjoyed making some pieces of it, not the whole thing. So yeah, I truly enjoy the process, Mark. And what I was thinking is that we've come a long way in the India chapter as well. This is the 5th episode, but I keep getting some messages from people saying that how do we join, how do we contribute. So what we could also do is we could use the time today and just walk them through the various channels through which they can participate. Of course, we keep talking about the YouTube channel where we are doing this this session, and we do it every Saturday at 6 o'clock. There's also the website, which is baseline-protocol.org.
Mhm.
um, and we also have a Slack channel,
The Slack
and
channel.
that's the most active. That's always lit up with so many things happening. Questions being asked and updates being shared and announcements being made. So anybody who wants to participate and contribute to Baseline as an organization or as an individual, you're most welcome to join our Slack channel and start contributing. The GitHub repo is also updated. Most of our issues there, you'll see what's happening. The active issues are always, all our comments, votes, everything is there for the public to see and audit us, what we're doing. Two very interesting grant requests recently got almost approved. I think one of them got approved, the other one is still in voting. But I think two very interesting grant requests which have come up are around DIDs. Once, so it's like having a phone book now being made after we handed out the cell phone to people. So I think, yeah, of course, it may be out of sequence for some, as some of them may be calling it, but now at least we have these two very interesting groups working on the matter of DIDs. So that's very interesting. And these are solid teams. So people can go to GitHub, read about the background of people who are working on these grants. One also, now, so that was an update which I wanted to share with the community here. So people are very soon going to see reusable components coming out of these grant requests, and they can pick it up and start baselining. The other important update that I have is on the grant request which our very own Anais had submitted. She's the head of standards committee, and she's submitted this grant request for acting as the, what should I say, what's the best word for it? I mean, she's going to bring in order to the chaos. I think she's going to bring in a lot of order into into the documentation that we've created so far. We've grown by leaps and bounds, this whole community, and we've all been contributing documents and codes and a lot of things over a period of time. So now Anais comes in, and she's going to prepare a whole system of documentation so that anybody who's joining in new, be it an organization or individual, finds it useful. So those are the two major updates which I had for today, and I think those are some of the best steps forward, towards formalization, towards maturity. So what do you say, Mark?
I would say that, a lot of us, again, a lot of us have done many laps around the track, and we are drawing from and learning from the well-meaning but still mistakes that
Yeah.
we've made, through various different emerging technologies. I myself came from the blockchain space, which has had an enormous amount of trial and error, an enormous amount of excitement and even hype was put on. Baseline when it first came out, because a lot of us, I mean, not Baseline, but blockchain. And you started, everyone remembers that blockchain was going to end world hunger, and it was going to make us all
Save the
taller.
rainforest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to make us all taller and smarter and prettier, and get all the weeds out of our lawn, and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. And it was easy to get really caught up in that. But when all of that comes back down to earth, you have to come to find out, how can we actually implement this? And the
Hmm.
analogy has been made that blockchain was a very robust, shiny hammer that was in search of nails. And
Yeah.
with baseline, we want to look for the nails first, as we are perfecting the hammer. And we are paying a lot of attention to using standards. Since this is going to be an ecosystem approach, network effect being the goal, we need to have everyone operating under the same taxonomy of standards,
Yeah.
so that everything just kind of works. Because if not, it's doomed to fail. I mean, a lot of people really, they start thinking about standards as far as
Hmm.
that everyone's going to have that commonality. Everyone's going to wait, after they get all of the um, capability and the technology together. They really didn't pay as much attention to is, well, how is a community or a composite of people going to be using this? And
Yeah.
they'll be using different platforms, and they'll be using different, maybe even different operating systems, but there needs to be that set of standards so that it flows seamlessly across all of those environments. So, and Aneso Frank is our chair of our standards committee. And so there is no better person to actually try to bring order to the chaos. So,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited to hear about that. And it's an exciting time for Baseline right now because it, for me at least, it addressed so many of the pitfalls and the shortcomings, I guess, of blockchain technology, because there were a lot of assumptions made that
Yeah.
people were going to adopt Baseline, adopt blockchain, that everybody else was going to be doing it too. And you start having a cascade of questions. Well, which blockchain are you using, and what implementation? And are you using private permissions? Are you using public? And if you were using public, we really did not at the time have the framework put together to how you could actually at least control that access.
Mm.
And plus, you had a lot of private enterprises, which was where the adoption was going to come from. Plus, most of the funding was going to come from. Basically said, we need to be able to control access to this blockchain. It's very robust, but we only want the people that should be participating with, and we want to exclude all others. Which is how that really works. And my cat wants to visit us again this time.
One more baseline now.
Absolutely. But at the same time, when you're working on Baseline, you start to think, around other ancillary technologies that are going to be working for this Baseline enablement, and digital identity,
Yeah.
especially in the form of DIDs, is a very important part of that.
Yeah.
There's a big push right now within the digital identity space that people can, it's basically proving you are you. That I am who I am, and I am using a verified credential, which is a digital version of, a document that you may keep in your billfold or your wallet. Whether it's a driver's license, a passport, or whatever, you are taking this physical item out and showing it to someone that then is, you are proving that you are who you are, because you are being able to physically hand them the document. And
Yeah.
they are verifying that, yes, this appears to be real. It appears to be have all the proper markings and stuff of whoever issued this credential. This is taking that digitally, and it can be done in a wallet that is on a phone, that you can basically sit there and prove that you are you. And at the same time, you have that granularity that is being introduced into it, because you can then, select the level or the threshold that you want to then prove that you are who you say you are, or that you have gone through
Absolutely.
training,
Yeah.
or you can do all of that.
Yeah.
So, if you were to, the simplest example is if I were to buy a bottle of wine here in the States, minimum alcohol purchase is age 21. I
Yeah.
only have to prove that I am 21 years of age. You do not need to know anything else about me.
Yeah.
I showed you my driver's license. You don't need to know my height, my weight, my eye
Yeah.
color, my home address.
Yeah.
You don't even need to know my date of birth. All you need to
Absolutely.
know is I am 21. And in the verified credential space,
Yeah.
that is enough. Because, and I have a lot of people that would ask me and say, well, how do they know you're not faking that? And I said, well,
Yeah.
how do you know you're not faking a plastic
Yeah.
card?
Yeah.
I said, sophistication it exists
Yeah.
to have some very, compelling, but,
Yeah.
false.
There was a use case which I had worked on a few days back, and that was on hotel check-ins. So I was actually doing that, more like a pilot project before COVID hit, before they were actually making money. That you are actually checking into a hotel. It's the same way that Uber changed the whole experience of taking a taxi and going from point A to point B. where we're saying, you know what, you just need to prove that you're you. That's it, and you're all checked in.
Right.
And it can be any hotel where you've made a booking. It need not be the one where you're a loyal member, and maybe a new one. You may be traveling to a new city, but you just need to prove that you're you, and the rest of the paperwork, just because eventually what people do is you hand over your passport to an unknown person standing behind a counter,
Yes.
and then that person takes away the passport and goes to some room which you don't even know where it is, right? So it's sometimes scary. I've traveled a lot, and I did feel that was the case in some of the biggest ones as well, that they need to make copies and they need to retain all that data, while I've almost given every bit of information about me, the same information online as well, by making the booking.
Right.
So those are the kind of cases which definitely need ZKP coming in, and something like Baseline coming in, systems talking to each other, the booking portal talking to the hotel systems, etc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
and
and the
in
thing is,
India, yeah,
and by doing that, you're not surrendering any control. You
yeah,
retain all of the control all the time. And that is the emerging, that's a lot of the philosophy behind the emerging um, movement towards self-sovereign identity, to where you
yeah,
say, I am controlling, how much that I am sharing, enough for you to validate or authenticate or accept the
mm,
proof that I am who I am.
yeah,
And at the same time, um, you really you're able to do this, and maintain control, and you only need to reveal, there's much less data leakage,
mm,
and you maintain the actual control. And so if you look at a lot of the, potential use cases, that could have very compelling application, especially in healthcare, in life science. I mean, not
mm,
just, a lot of people talk about vaccine passports and stuff,
yeah,
to
yeah,
where you can basically say here, and it's digitally saying, yes, I've had all of my vaccines and stuff.
yeah,
There is some legal framework that would need to be worked out of that, but it is at least getting everyone paying attention to that. So, and the more people we have paying attention, the more people are going to speak up and say, "Have you thought about this?" or "Have you
yeah,
thought about that?" So, and we want to have as many people talking about that as possible. But digital identity is going to be a very big thing going forward. And it's getting a lot of attention, um,
mm,
not only in the self sovereign aspect, which I think is really cool, but you're going to have a small amount of people at this stage of the journey that are really kind of thinking, yeah, that really is kind of cool.
yeah,
Um, but if you look at it from any user environment that you have to prove, or at least authenticate or validate that you
yeah,
are who you are, it is done through a public and private key pair right now.
yeah,
It's used for an ID, and then an authentication uh, method. And the big thing that digital identity can solve a persistent pain point right now, something everyone deals with day in, day out, multiple times a day,
yeah.
is you can authenticate who you are and no more passwords.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so much
Sounds
more,
like a dream.
oh, and it's so much more secure. And
Yeah,
so if you really want to start driving some adoption, get that aha moment. And when
yeah,
people sit there and say, what, you mean I don't have to, I can basically either through a biometric or
yeah.
some type of method, through a wallet on a phone, I can prove
Mm,
who I am. And I don't have to sit there and come up with, I don't have to, do a new password every 30 days that has
yeah.
to be 8 characters. I mean, remember back when you had 4 character passwords? I mean, now it's got to be 8 characters, and it's got to be upper and lowercase with additional symbols and stuff like that. And you've got to redo
Yeah,
that. Now I've got to
yeah.
remember that, and um, passwords were a really persistent problem. And so
Mm,
I guess kind of the um, I guess kind of the remedy for that, it was a partial remedy, is they started using federated identity. which generally, if you are logged into into your computer, you're probably logged into something that has a federated aspect to it. So you probably will see that when people say um, you're going to a website and they say you can sign in with your Google account, you can sign in with
Mm,
your Facebook account, you can sign
mm,
in with any number one of those platforms that you're probably already signed in. Let's just use that credential to sign into this space over here, because
yeah,
within the internals of your computer they say we've already captured that elsewhere. Can we actually translate it across here? And
yeah,
I'm not really at all excited about wanting to log into something using my social media credentials. I'm not interested in doing it. That's too much cross pollination. And
yeah, totally.
federated identity was really a way of starting to kind of maybe circumvent the passwords, or at least having to you know re-enter them all the time. So
Mm.
yeah, you want to get people's attention, sit there and say, I can get rid of my passwords. But when you do that, and like you were talking about earlier about DIDs, and that's decentralized identifiers. And if I have, with my bank or with my utility, maybe a power company or a phone or something, I can set up a decentralized identifier. And that's similar
Mm.
to the phone book, that we already have established that we know each other, we have a relationship, we have an interaction environment. Um, and so we have proven through decentralized identifiers that we are who we
Mm.
are. And if we, leave and then come back, we can then use that same channel because it's already put together. And people are going to have multiple DIDs at any given time that, sometimes if they go stale, you can then, re-authenticate them. I mean, in
Yeah,
fraction of the time.
yeah,
But while as long as you have that decentralized identifier, you also have the framework for secure messaging. And it is highly
mm.
secure that,
Mm.
you can then have interaction back and forth. And so that's something I don't think a lot of people have really started to pay attention to very
Yeah,
deeply, to
yeah.
say, DIDs are going to really, not only make things a lot easier, but they're going to bring a lot of capability.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a key, especially with the pandemic situation, that's a key area which could be explored for messaging. Talk about board members communicating with each other using, um, freely available messaging tools. I'm not going to take any names, but everybody understands what they're using today. So look at the boards. They're discussing really important stuff, utilizing absolutely freely available messengers. When you are not paying anything, then you are the product, right? So there are people who are at risk of losing their information to one big daddy, or even there are several forms of corporate espionage, right? So there may be various things snooping on them. And then talk about a messenger service which is utilizing DIDs. You're absolutely secure, or to the extent you protect the issuance and authentication of the DIDs right in the beginning, then you're sure of what's going on. The other portion, we just spoke about individuals. Now talk about machines. Machines will have DIDs, and they will have various transactions which will rely on each other to give result to one common outcome. So for example, I'm ordering a pizza via my Alexa device. That will have multiple hops and multiple companies interacting with each other to bring me my pizza in the right time at the right place, right? so
And you want
so
to complete that with a single payment portal.
exactly.
You want to tie all of that together, but you don't want to have to pay piecemeal
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah,
You want a
yeah,
single integrated pay. Yes.
yeah. So those are the kind of things which will require this, absolutely rock solid identification and non-repudiation, so to say,
Mhm.
um, to be implemented, and to be implemented fast. Because I think people have grown impatient, consumers have grown impatient, and people want services like these. I'm sure there'll be very few nerds who will start using it first, but with adoption, will come economies of scale, and then people will realize that, yeah, this is the best way to do it. This is the lazy way to do it. And then whatever we are doing today is sort of more taxing. you know
And
absolutely fantastic discussion we had, Mark, and thanks so much for being impromptu with this, but this is leading in a very interesting direction. I'm so excited.
well, and actually, I mean, the possibilities, I mean, it can really expand, I mean, beyond that and stuff, because to your point that you made earlier, that going away from individuals into machines, that, human beings are not the only ones with identities.
Yeah.
It does not have to be a human. I mean, if you look at it in, say, a healthcare setting, I mean, it can be a lab or it can be a clinic.
Yeah.
Um, it can be a building,
Yeah.
for storage. But really, and that's really kind of cool to show how that's going to go. But the big thing, that big non-human identity use case, is going to be vehicles,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to paying tolling. If you're going to have surge pricing, you're starting to have, and because the technology exists now, that municipalities and cities and transportation authorities can now do this, but they're starting to implement surge pricing.
Hmm.
Like for New York City, they are right now looking to, and of course, COVID has derailed this a little bit or delayed it a little bit, but it's still coming because it's an additional revenue source for the entity. So they're not going to ignore that. But
Hmm.
surge pricing to where, we want to have fewer cars on Manhattan Island
Hmm.
during the weekday, during high business hours. And
Yeah.
so what we want to do is, when we have all these cars that are, you know, entering the city, um, below, say, the 59th Street and stuff. We want to, and anyone that, yeah, you can still come in there, but you're going to pay a higher rate
Yeah.
for your car. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we want to make sure that you have the certain exemptions that are going to be built into that. You're going to have, those with disability plates and stuff. They want to make sure that they're
Hmm.
not being charged
Hmm.
for the surge pricing. And that you just, be able to have that, this vehicle is who they say they are,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
vehicle actually, through a transponder on the windshield, or some other method, can basically handle the display and authentication, as well as the payment
Right.
and stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
vehicles are going to be really big, when it comes to DIDs and digital identity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I created a model for a cryptocurrency for Africa, where the first use case that they wanted to develop was cars paying for the fuel.
Yeah.
Say, here I've just fueled my car. The car knows how much has gone in. The pump knows how much has gone in. And why can't a machine to machine transaction happen here and free the driver?
Yeah.
So that's something which they had in the. That's not launched yet, but yeah, that was in the works.
Oh,
Uh,
no, and that's there's an organization called Mobi,
yeah,
MOB.
Mobi. I was part of it while I was at
Yes,
Accenture.
yes.
Yeah,
So, and Mobi is that exact use case, to where you're starting to, humans are almost seen as superfluous to the entire transaction. And at the same time, that's going to go when it comes to fractional ownership. You know,
absolutely.
if people want to start, fractionally owning cars,
Hmm.
much like they'll do jet, air,
Yeah,
private jets right now.
yeah,
Um, but and all of that, because it's going to be interacting with a lot of different, through APIs or through, some whatever method and stuff. But you're going to
hmm.
want to have that end user have that single portal that's, in a single transaction.
Yeah,
So, um, and that's very, looking at if you're going to have highway tolling, if you're going to have
yeah,
parking,
yeah.
and all of that, to where your car takes care of it.
Yeah. In fact,
So,
the surge pricing, that there was a pilot, if I remember correctly, also done in New Delhi, on similar lines. I think Singapore has implemented, and London has implemented it pretty well.
yeah.
The congestion taxes, etc. Then, the one of the other very important things which which we had been working on was also uh, these vehicles transacting with each other, telling people about accidents and traffic jams and stuff like that. So while there is generic information required, I don't need to share who I am and where am I coming from, where am I going. I don't need to do that. But still, if there is a public safety issue on the road, I need to inform the others, right? So that congestion can be lesser and the safety vehicles can actually travel um, on the roads. So those are the kind of use cases, machines talking to machines, cars talking to cars. They really fascinate me, and they're all, I think they're all born out of DIDs. Getting DID right.
Mhm.
That's really key.
Yeah.
Um, so
And DIDs, especially with the march toward to W3C for Web 3.0, because
yeah,
there are so many capabilities that are being put into the plumbing right now. DIDs and verified credentials
yeah,
uh, are our way of doing it. And at the same time, you can actually take control, which is really kind of a delicate balancing act because, and we've brushed upon this several times in
mm,
our conversation today, is, you know, we humans are a deeply flawed species. We're very lazy. We don't want to take on additional work.
yeah,
At the same time, you can say, you know, I like the fact that I don't have to enter my user ID and my password because that's less work for me. You know,
mm,
I like the fact that I can prove who I am, through
mm,
a capability um, that that I have and stuff. But do I really want to go full self sovereign? Do I want to take control of all of this? Because you know, I don't know. I mean, one of the use cases that they'll talk about is you can actually carry your all of your medical records.
mm,
So if you are traveling, uh, internationally, and you slip on some gravel and
yeah,
fracture your ankle, and
yeah,
you're in Singapore, you actually can have to the people who say this is my medical history,
mm,
which sounds really cool until you start to think about what would it take for you and me, what would it take to assemble our entire medical history,
yeah,
going all the way back,
yeah,
and where would we find that? And it's going to be in a whole menagerie of formats, few of them digital.
yeah,
Everything's going to be paper based, it's going to be
yeah,
scanned PDFs. And
true,
but at the same time, were we to fracture our ankle slipping on some gravel in Singapore, it would
yeah,
take a while for them to go all the way back, to our home country. And
mm,
who would we talk to? How could we say, all right, it has Samrat and Mark, you know,
yeah,
what do they have? I mean, are there any risk factors? Is there any blood
yeah,
pressure, or is there any, allergy or anything like that? You know, to be able to instantaneously, you know,
yeah.
prove that, you know,
I think, God forbid if something more severe happens, than slipping on gravel.
and
So
you're
it's
not
even
able to actually communicate.
to communicate, so there was this POC which I did with one of the state governments a while back, where they wanted us to implement uh, DIDs for health records. And one of the biggest hospital chain in India was involved. They do more heart surgeries. That's just one hospital. They do more heart surgeries than the entire of UK in a year.
Wow.
So they're huge, yeah. So they were involved, and so what we did was we were like, here is an authorized individual. This hospital proving that who they are and why do they need to be accessing these records. They should be able to access the health records of the patient, um, using their driver's license, their credit card, anything which is on their person.
Yes.
And eventually it could also move on to your fingerprints, because we also have a national ID system which could be used to authenticate the guy. And then again, depending on, the entire risk lied with the POS, with the point of, or not the point POS, basically we should call it point of contact, where the information was being requested. So
Right.
if that goes wrong, then everything goes wrong.
But it actually flips it to where you say, I now have an inbound query of
Yeah.
saying, I'm national, I'm this, the hospital in
Yeah.
Mumbai or is requesting this.
Yeah.
And then you can then sit there and say, well, what are you requesting?
Yeah.
And what can I provide? And all of that, be done seamlessly.
Mm.
Um, I think that's something a lot of people would find attractive to say, I like
Yeah.
the fact that I still maintain my hand on the wheel. I still
Absolutely.
maintain that. And so instead of me just relying and trusting where, I have to make that judgment, has that trust been earned? You
Mm.
know, that sort of stuff. I mean, trust is inherent in almost any type of interaction. This
Yeah.
really allows that you can, you know, instantaneously,
Yeah.
prove
Yeah.
uh, what you have. And so, and it's the same interaction that people do every day, and
Mm.
but they don't really understand, have it nice distilled in a nice way of putting it together. And
Right.
within digital identity they call it the trust triangle, to where you have an issuer, a prover, and a verifier. And
Yeah.
this happens all the time. So say you get a new driver's license, you
Mm.
have an issuer that has, it's going to be the public authority that issues your driver's license.
Yeah.
And using blockchain technology, that is secured on a blockchain using
Mm.
the immutability and tamper evidence of the blockchain on this. And so that credential is then issued to you. You are the prover. You are the one saying, hey, you know what? I'm the one that has to prove that I can buy this bottle of wine, that I
Yeah.
can access this hospital, or that I
Yeah.
can view these records and stuff. I am proving my credential that to a verifier who will then read it from the blockchain. And you can
Yeah.
automate that process.
Yeah.
Basically say, this is the verified credential. Does it match what is secured on here?
Mm.
It does. True or false. You know, the proof has been issued and accepted,
Yeah.
and it's all
And do
been
the
done
people, yeah, and some
instantaneously.
people will come on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and say, are you going to put data on the blockchain? And we're going to respond to that
No,
saying, no data on the blockchain,
no.
only hashes and proofs go on the blockchain. So and Mark, this is one sort of ancillary question. One risk that we all sit on with the DIDs is the security of devices or wallets where they're stored.
Yeah,
So I think
endpoint
that
security.
yeah, endpoint security. I think that needs some more development. I think that was sort of the biggest risk which I saw was still left open. Either you do two-factor, you do stuff like that, and this reminds me of one incident. I was in Norway and talking to a banking client and about cybersecurity. They had recently had a breach. Banks have breaches all the time, so they had a breach and they're like, oh, you know what, we're doing this, we're doing we're securing the system. And a lot of times, while I was talking to them, I could hear that, yeah, you know what, the user will have to do this, the user will have to do that. And then eventually at the end of the day, we were having coffee and we were like, do you really think the user should be going through, the user should be jumping through so many hoops to be able
Right.
to access their account and reset their password or stuff like that? They
Yeah.
said, there was one simple answer, and I was shut. So they said, you know what, the user feels safe when they're doing all this. So it may not be serving the purpose, but this one guy's opinion changed mine. So it was like, users feel safe when they're required to do all this to come inside. So
And some do. Yes.
some do, yeah. So I think he was talking about majority. Then, talking about pro levels, I mean, even I used to use at some point in time, I used to use a hardware wallet for my cryptocurrency, and
Mhm.
only because I did not have a lot of trust on people. And especially there were so many news about exchanges running away and Bitcoin getting locked and people dying and then stuff like that. So it was always good to so it was always good to own, but not everybody is capable of securing the endpoints. And even I felt that at times, it's not safe to carry this around. So especially with the value rising and everything. So
Yeah.
so so what do you think is the next step, we should be doing? Should we be storing DIDs in phones?
Well, DIDs and phones, I think, can be secured to the wallet, and the endpoint security is definitely an addressable concern there. And so much movement has been made already and stuff because, so long as you have, I mean, if you look at, okay, well, if we're going to have endpoint security,
Hmm.
what methods are we going to use? And right now it's multi-factor authentication,
Yeah.
which is very friction. And yes, if you want to feel safe and you want to be diligent and thorough, by all means. But
Hmm.
that's a very small segment of the population that wants to be
Yeah,
that
exactly.
diligent and thorough. They're like,
Yeah.
I just want to be able to hold my face up, have it read the just like the on iPhones
Hmm.
have the Face ID and
Yeah.
stuff, and you'll have Touch ID for fingerprints and stuff.
Hmm.
Any
Hmm.
type of unique, physical attribute, for biometrics, really, increases the endpoint security because. Yeah, at some point they sit there and say, is something 100% secure? No.
Yeah.
The idea is to make, if someone were to be a malicious actor and want to be able to take
Hmm.
their identity and do something with it and stuff, they want it to be as easy as possible. They don't want to have to do a lot of work.
Hmm.
And so they're going to go find someone else, who's going to be easier
So
to
it's first a deterrent and then then a blocker. So I completely agree. And there was also some debate around having honeypots. Let them let them get in, and find nothing. So yeah, I think pretty interesting discussion, Mark. I think we discussed too many use cases and challenges, opportunities with DIDs. I'm sure in the coming weeks we are going to build on that. The next one is going to be around compliances. So I'm going to get somebody big from Productivity, KPMG. We're going to be talking about how the compliance landscape can be baselined.
yeah.
So
Well,
I myself work with a lot of cybersecurity projects, and I feel that once we are shaking hands, I mean, doing business is like shaking hands. So once we're shaking hands, is there a possibility to, I mean, I'm planting a seed right now. Is there a possibility to also handshake your cyber posture?
yeah. Oh, I would say yes, but I would say that doing that in a universal
Hmm.
way is going
Hmm.
to be years away. That's going to
Yeah.
need to be specialized.
Yeah.
Um, I can remember when I guess there was an American company called Nextel that had
Hmm.
come out, and they said right now cellular networks were just being built out, and
Okay.
the popularity was creating capacity issues. But at the same time, there was a very secure and very mature technology, the push to talk and stuff.
Hmm.
And so they said, we're going. Who are the types of people that talk amongst each other within their own ecosystem every day, and that basically can use this push to talk so that we can reduce some of the load on the cellular network. So
Yeah.
instead of having to set up a new call, set up that the circuit, looking
Yeah.
at it from a plumbing standpoint, then they could just have the radio, the push to talk, and they identified builders, home builders, use a lot of
Okay.
that because you're going to have the carpenters, the crews, the suppliers, have them all on that same network, and they're all talking to each other.
Okay.
So
Very interesting.
realtors, get the realtors and the mortgage brokers on the same network using all of that. And so,
Okay.
yes, you're going to be able to have that. Uh, I guess these groups that are going to, probably use this more often
Hmm.
instead of just having everybody use it and stuff. And so,
Yeah. 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 So I think this is a fantastic way we could first find that nerd group and
yeah,
then build something for them. I think this is very interesting. So I think the cybersecurity idea that I was talking about, it's more got to do with people who want to work together really fast. I don't have time to establish trust. Let's just handshake, and see that our cybersecurity posture aligns, or people, going up to the government level. I don't know. It may come in the next 25 years, but what if, I wanted to establish a working relationship with the government, and I could just go and submit to them on a portal that, here is my security post and I want to work with you.
Right.
Because currently, small businesses are just burdened with compliance when they want to work with the government, and it happens across the world. It's not just India or US or anyway, it happens everywhere that small businesses, for a lot of times, they cannot really invest in getting themselves audited and
Right.
and maintain that compliance over a period of time, not knowing that they're going to get business or not.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't make sense for them to try and check all the boxes for compliance. They would rather just pay a third party to do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, just like, on credit cards, you're going to pay 2 to 3%.
yeah,
Just so you can have money now. We'll handle all the back end, the
yeah,
back office reconciliation and all of that and stuff. But we're going to charge you 3%. And merchants and business owners just view that as a cost that is
yeah,
unavoidable. Well,
yeah,
and now when you have so many other people nickeling and diming you for,
yeah,
all these
yeah.
things, it starts to add up. So,
And eventually, what happens is, with especially with the government contracts, what I have seen over my experience. I mean, this is just my opinion, but what happens is eventually a bigger company gets the contracts, and then they outsource to the same guys who were who were trying out their luck to apply for the tenders in the first place. So I think, yeah, I think there are these pockets of opportunity where baseline can come in and make a difference. So with that, I think, Mark, we should wrap up for today. I welcome you to the next one as well. That's an important
sure.
one. Uh, it's it's going to be on compliances. I think no, sorry, my bad. The compliances one is on. So I'm just looking at my calendar. The compliance one is on 21st.
Mhm.
So we're going to be talking about GDPR, ISO compliances, etc., which particularly to for cybersecurity, data privacy, etc., which are if let's say you're interacting with a company, and and if it is beyond borders, then you have to spend time and money on getting that get audited, and time, especially, you wait till all that is done to do business. So
Mhm.
all that can be eliminated potentially. So I'm just going to invite some people who want to talk about stuff. And one more announcement which I have, going back to my notes, I have an announcement around joining Baseline in India. So we've got tons of interest from companies in India. We are evaluating companies to become sponsors, contributors to Baseline Protocol in India. We may be closing the memberships for some time. So I'm going to be floating out a Google form where people can reach out to me, or you can reach out to me via LinkedIn, and we're going to see how we can take you in. So for a period of time, there may be, we may be stopping memberships. That's just to manage the pile that we're sitting on. So that's that, and then we have a very crucial thing coming up, which is ETH Atlanta. So today I shared a post about ETH Atlanta, 1st to 3rd of October. It's also got a hackathon. It's also got some online sessions. So people in India can easily participate. Start winning money, guys. It's up to you. So with that, I come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much who are watching us on YouTube and who will be watching us in future. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. We keep coming up with this show every Saturday at 6 p.m. And we also make a lot of announcements via this office hours. Thank you so much, Mark, for making it, and you're killing it in the GTM space. I'm happy that we are now together in that. So thanks so
I,
much,
I
everybody who
actually,
joined in.
I actually sent you a deliverable 2 days ago. So,
Okay. Cool. So we're going to end with the song again, or are we?
or are we?
Because, yeah, just looking for it.
You gonna do it on your phone?
Yeah, seems off. Anyway, I'm gonna be next time on. I'm gonna find a setting in Zoom. I think that's something which is keeping it from playing last time and today. Thanks so much for everyone who tuned in today. We'll see you next week at 6 o'clock. Cheers.